What is going on, guys? You're watching The Hungry Handgunner. I'm Nick, and I am beyond excited to tell you guys that we crossed over 8,000 subscribers yesterday, which would be February 4th, so very excited about that, which reminds me I need to make a post because you guys will see the post before you see this video, due to the fact that I have to edit it and all that good stuff and wait on the internet connection to upload. So one thing that has kind of bothered me about my own reviews, and a few other people have said the same thing, is there was no real objective standard from particularly handgun to handgun when I reviewed them. Some sort of scoring factor, categories, rating system, things like that. So a good buddy of mine, actually the guy that made me start doing videos to begin with, he and I were talking on my drive out to Texas, and I said, well, my thing is I don't know, when I'm going to buy a gun, I don't know how close to what other people's criteria those are. And he said, well, just screw it, run with it. Whatever the categories are that you look at before you buy a firearm, just run with that. So that's what we're going to be doing. I know this is going to be some redundant content, so by all means, feel free to skip it if you're not interested. But I am going to be doing a part 2 of the review for the handguns and then eventually rifles and shotguns as I develop that criteria on every gun that I previously reviewed and still own. So it seemed appropriate. The first firearm that I had reviewed on the channel, at least as far as I can tell, was my Glock 19x. You guys know that I have a love-hate relationship with Glocks, so the results of this are probably going to surprise you because they surprised even me. That's the other thing. Just because I like a gun more does not necessarily mean it's going to do better on my little test. So you guys are probably like, quit talking, tell us what's on the little criteria. So it's 5 categories. Each category gets a 1 through 10 rating. So with the Glock 19x, I'll go ahead and tell you the scores as we go here. It's going to be a reliability. I gave the 19x a 10. It has been nothing short of reliable, and that stands true with most Glock products in my experience. Ergonomics, the second category, I gave it an 8 out of 10. Now I do realize it's going to be largely subjective. Not everybody has the same hand shape, not everybody has the same shooting grip, not everybody has the same hand texture or toughness factor or whatever. I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's not unpleasant to hold. It is something that for me has grown on me over time, so there is that. I did give it an 8 out of 10 on ergonomics. Number 3 is cost of ownership, and in that the caliber of the firearm is chambered in. So Glock 19x chambered in 9x19. Cost of ownership is pretty low normally. Ammo is pretty easy to find normally, and that's the other thing. I'm looking at this under normal circumstances. Until I have reason to believe that we will never go back to anything resembling normal circumstances, that's the lens through which I'm going to look at this stuff. So if you're mad at me for that, sorry. I don't want to be part of the panic buying problem. I don't want to tell people the world's ending. I really don't think it is. So anyway, back to cost of ownership and the caliber. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Cost of ownership on these guns is incredibly simple. They're not that expensive. They're not that maintenance heavy. Obviously maintain your defensive tools, keep them clean, but these very easy to deal with, very cheap to replace most of the parts. The most common parts that would break under wear or need to be replaced under schedule are going to be fairly inexpensive. Number 4 kind of plays into number 3 a little bit. This is going to be ease of operation / ease of maintenance. How easy is it to use the firearm? How easy is it to maintain the firearm? So for starters, again, the gun is clear. You would put a loaded mag in the firearm, rack the slide around is chambered. You point the firearm at your intended target, press the trigger, it goes bang. It doesn't get much more simple than that for a semi-automatic firearm. Now, ease of maintenance on a firearm like this, basically, you're going to check your chamber, make sure there's no magazine inserted, no round in the chamber, point the weapon in a safe direction, press the trigger, and then just show you guys the way I do it here. The easiest way for me is to come under here, kind of hook my middle finger on the ejection port, pull it back just 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch, pull down on these 2 tabs on either side. Not sure how well you can see it. Ride the slide forward, and then from there you take out your recoil, spring assembly, barrel, things like that. And that's your basic field stripping on the Glock. Very easy to do, something that I can do with my eyes closed. No joke. I have to make a video for y'all on that, I guess, if you're interested in it. That might be more Instagram worthy stuff. So in terms of operation and maintenance, Glock 19x and by extension other Glocks, it's very easy to do. There's no rocket science there at all. And the last category in this little 5-part thing is going to be the one that I think most I might get the most flack on, and that's going to be parts availability and brand stability. Again, I'm doing this from the mindset of the things that go through my head when I'm buying a gun, the criteria I use when I'm looking at purchasing a gun. That doesn't mean if it gets a bad score on here that I won't buy it, but it does factor into the decision. So parts availability, brand stability. Basically, when I'm buying a firearm, I try to look at it like I'm going to have it the rest of my life. And through that lens, how likely is it that I'm going to be able to get the parts I need to maintain this firearm over a long-term period of ownership? Not just your little things that you need to replace after every 5,000 or 10,000 rounds, but more major components. What's the likelihood that they're going to be around? How strong is that brand in the firearms world? So something like the Glock is a very well-established pistol, probably one of the most well-established pistol brands out there. I think it's here to stay. As far as the parts availability, they're not particularly hard to find as long as there's not a run on them. Most of your gun stores are going to carry most of the little parts you need to keep this thing running, and being able to order the other more specific things are going to be, it's going to be fairly easy to do so. So, and again, it's looking at things through the lens of normal times, which I know we're not right now, but typically. So overall, that led me to give the Glock a score of 48 out of 50. Now again, this was actually a perfect gun to start this with because most of you know I'm not particularly fond of these guns just in terms of shooting it, what I prefer, things like that. And it is frustrating sometimes because people take that to mean that I think it's a bad gun. I don't think it's a bad gun at all, not in the least. It's just not my first choice. Now looking at the numbers, it's pretty hard to argue. It is a very good choice. Makes a lot of sense from a practical standpoint. So I hope that kind of serves as a good illustration of what I'll be doing with these guns. They're going to be fairly short videos, just going back through and applying an objective standard, a scoring system. You know, the Glock got 48 out of 50. My PO1 might get a 30 out of 50. I don't know. God, I hope not. But I'll have to look at it again and be honest with myself on those things. And some of the things are subjective. Ergonomics are going to be completely subjective. And I realize some of you may not care about brand stability, parts availability on a long-term basis, but that's something that plays into it for me. So anyway, guys, there you go. There's part 2 of the new and revamped review scoring process. Some guns, unfortunately, I won't be able to give a part 2 because I don't still own the gun. Might be kind of hard to get it out here. I might figure something out, but we'll look at it and go from there. Guys, stay safe, keep shooting, and I'll see you next time.